This is a step-by-step tutorial for professional website developers on creating a responsive landing page using Wix Studio, which is a no-code web platform. I'll also share free websites to get high-paying clients, web design inspiration, and free resources to upskill yourself. My name is Ansh Mehra and I train businesses on using technology and design. So without further ado, let's get started. This video has 3 chapters. First, I'll cover the basics of Wix Studio and how it works. Then, I'll show you how I created a fully responsive and well-designed website without any coding. In the end, I'll give you a list of free courses and Wix Studio templates that you can use to kickstart your freelancing or agency business. Let's start with chapter number 1. First, you need to go to wix.com/studio to create your free account. As soon as you log in, you will be redirected to manage.wix.com. Now let's switch to the computer. So as soon as you log in, we have all sites by default that shows you whatever you've created so far. Let's start by creating our first website. So I'll click on this button and select Studio Blank Canvas. Once you're in the blank canvas, this is what you'll see. Now let me break this UI one by one. On the very top, you have your navigation where you can switch between different devices. In the center is where we will be building our own website. On the top right corner, you can either preview the version or publish it to a live domain. And by the way, the free version of Wix allows you to publish this on a demo domain. Otherwise, if you pay them, it's almost around 230 rupees per month. You will get a domain free for a year. Now, the main action is on the left side where we have all of our important quick actions. So if I click on add elements, this is where I get most of my useful features in one single place. अब यही से असली मजा शुरू होता है. So when you go to quick add, you have all of your atomic elements like an image or a title or a paragraph. If I go to assets, these are some elements that I have already saved. So once I edit something, I can save that specific section as an asset and reuse it again and again. But because we're doing this for the very first time, there are no assets to use from. At the bottom, we have sections, and this is where things become very interesting. Within sections, you have different categories where you can either have pre-designed sections or you can have interactive sessions, which could be an accordion, or it could be a bunch of names on your website, or it could be something on hover where you hover over a specific product and get more information. Otherwise, you can also have click sections. It basically means that it's not just something which is visible, but has more layers that are triggered as soon as you click them. And then you have navigation sections, which are your headers or your footers. Now, to keep things very simple, let's just have a hero page. So I'll take this hello and maybe drag it to the center. Now you'll be noticing that as soon as I drag, I haven't let go of my cursor. I have this option called replace section. So basically by default, my entire website is made up of different sections. So on the very top, you have sections, which are these groups. Within sections, you can have containers. And within containers, you can have different elements that come inside a stack. Now, I know that all of this sounds very theoretical, but let me show you how it works. So first step was to drag and drop a specific element, and now I have something that looks like this. Now it's very easy to edit elements right here. So if I double click on this, I can click on edit text and choose whatever I want. So let's just say, I say welcome, right? Now, if this is extending towards 2 line, I can do Command A and then go here and reduce the font size to maybe say 120. Now, the interesting part here is that right below add elements, we have an option for our layers. So this is my page. In my page, I have a header section, then I have a section grid, and then we have a footer. Now, what is the difference between a section and a section grid? Basically, a section grid is a category of a section because inside a grid, you can have as many elements as you want. Now, this grid basically has 2 parts and each part is called a cell. So in my left cell, I have some text. In my right cell, I have some description. If I go here and click on this chevron right here, I will find everything which is inside the cell. Now, the cool part is that I can select this section grid, and on the right side, I can choose a lot of small details that can be fine-tuned and edited. So on the left side, we have all of our important features and quick actions. And on the right side, we have the inspector menu where I can edit all of these things one by one. So this part has design. And then if I go to animations and effects, this is where I can add entry animations or hover animations, which we will cover in the second half. Now, what if I want another section? I'll simply go on add elements, and this time I will click on about, and I would probably choose something that looks pretty unique. And this is the benefit of using Wix Studio, that all of these templates are very easily available. So you have all of your content in one single place. Now, what if I don't like this image? Just click on it and select add media, and it would open up a pop-up where either you can choose media which is readily available inside Wix Studio, or you can get images directly from Shutterstock or Unsplash, or you can create your own AI images. In most cases, if you're working for a client, you would have to create their own assets, but still, just for mood boarding or just for like a quick concept check, you can always select any of these images and just see how things are coming together. Now, fundamentally, this is how Wix Studio works. You have a bunch of sections. Otherwise, you can always go to quick add and put all of these elements together and edit these things one by one. Now, this entire tutorial is to achieve 2-3 outcomes. Number one, I want to show you what all is possible inside Wix Studio, and then I want to redirect you to resources and websites and courses that will help you upskill yourself. So this video is your starting point. Don't expect me to cover every single thing that you need to achieve to get a really good client, because I want to make sure that I make the best use of whatever limited time we have. So let me just show you some interesting items. Now let's just say I go back to my layers panel. Inside my section grid, I select one of those cells which can be my image. Now, as soon as I select my cell, you notice that there are some options that are absolutely locked in the inspector panel. That is because there are some properties applied to the section grid, and whatever you applied to the section grid in terms of responsive behavior, they are cascaded down into the cells. Now, if I go to a specific cell, you'd realize that I can't really change anything. If I go inside my cell and select this image, here also I can't change anything. But once I go to section grid, I can change the height and I can also change the responsive behavior. Now, width is of course locked. Why? Because I said that it has to be a fixed height, right? So can you see this animation right here? It doesn't matter how the screen shrinks, it will always adjust itself. If I make this scale proportionally, what will happen is that as my screen grows, the height and the width will scale proportionally. And if I say fit to screen, as soon as I do that, it would always scale those elements to make sure that whatever viewport is visible, it would just fill up the entire area. Now, I will put a link in the description which would have documentations for each of these responsive behaviors. It's extremely important that you test all of these options one by one. Now, of course, I can change the background color. Let's just say I want something in gray. So that is very easy to get started. If you want to put a video or an image behind this image, that is also possible. So if I click on add image or video, I can simply go and choose anything which is simple. So let's just say I go to something which is like a gaming background. And as soon as I do that, it would be reflected onto the gray canvas. But in this case, it is not making sense because it's going to be a pretty clean website and you have a lot of text on top of it. Now, if I go to background overlay, I have an option that says apply pattern overlay, where you can have these interesting patterns and they have multiple options for these patterns as well. So you can keep something which is subtle and not very distracting. Now, when it comes to the layout, there are too many layouts that you can have. Collage helps you create unequal layouts where one cell has more significance and the other two cells are right next to each other. But if I were to choose this into columns, then all of my content will come as 3 columns. Now, it completely depends on you how you want to arrange them. So if I select a specific cell, let's just say I take the how it all started cell and drag it to the left side, I will now have all of my media neatly arranged. So I would probably have the text on the left, and then I would probably have the images on the right. Now let's just say I don't want this section anymore. Simply go to the layers panel, click on the breadcrumb menu and just delete it. Changing your margins and paddings is also very simple. So if I click on this panel right here, I can either choose between percentages or pixels, and I can say that instead of 38 pixels, maybe I want 80 pixels of padding all over. So if I click on the chain icon, it would apply the 80 pixels padding all across. So you can see how I have the same edges on all the 4 sides. Now, if I want to see how this looks like, I can simply click on the eye icon, and right now this is how it looks. And if I drag the cursor, you can see how it has automatically become responsive on its own. So I can see how it would look on my phone. I can see how it would look on my tablet and desktop. So on the very top, you can switch between these breakpoints. So a breakpoint is a specific combination of the width and height at which Wix Studio will decide whether you're going from a computer or to a tablet, and usually 1280 pixels width is the breakpoint for a desktop. Now, if I click on publish, I can either get a free Wix Studio domain or I can connect it to my own customized domain. So if you do it through your own customized domain, it costs around 230 rupees. Otherwise, if I simply select this thing right here and make it my site one and save and continue, in less than a second, I would have access to my website in real time. So I already have this so easily. Now, if I want to go back to my editing, I'll simply click on edit site, and I would just have all of my things sorted. Now, let's just say I want one of these things to animate, right? So maybe I have this cell right here and the welcome cell right here. I will simply click on animations and effects, and I have an option that says entrance. So I have a bunch of templates to choose from. Maybe I want something that floats, or maybe something that slides. Probably slide looks good. Or I can also have something which is blur. And if I go to adjust animation, I can change the duration of it as well. So maybe like a 1 second or 1.1 second animation makes more sense. I can go to my other cell as well, go back to my entrance, and then probably choose something which is a reveal or maybe even float, and go to adjust animation and make this also say 1.1 seconds. So once I click on preview, maybe I want it to be slightly faster, so maybe 0.4 seconds. And once I go here, you'd see that all of these things are animating together. Now, in terms of interaction design, it's always recommended to have animations that are similar so that your user is not getting confused. So technically, if I go back here to this cell again, I can simply choose blur again, go to adjust animation and choose a 1.1, which is the same thing I chose for welcome. So as soon as I do my preview, I would have all of these things sorted. Now, once I go again, I can choose my section grid and also pick an interesting video. So let's just say I don't want a color, right? Maybe I want something which is a solid, and I go to my media and my images and videos. I can simply go to media from Wix and filter by videos and just choose something interesting. Let's just say I choose something like this. And in just a few seconds, I would have access to a video and the text. Now, when I preview this, see how crazy it looks. Right? And the crazy part is that it is all responsive and it is all getting published in real time. The next thing I want to show you is the concept of pages. So right now we just have a home page, but any good website would have multiple pages, right? So if I go to plus and select on add a standalone page, I would have a new place to start from. So I can simply go to quick add and then go to my sections again and probably go to team and probably choose something like this. And this is where you can put your own team members as well. So you can select any of these people and you can go to add media and then put your own face or your own team member's face. And this could be a page for your team. Now, once I go to my pages, you'd realize that I have both my home and my new page, which is technically my team page. So I can double click on this and call this as team. Now, to create a button that goes from this page to your team page, you can simply go to say your header, which is mostly where people add their content. And I have a horizontal menu right here. I can go to my layers panel and check that yes, this is the header. We have a hamburger menu. We have a horizontal menu. Now, let's just say I want to get rid of this home text, right? So I'll go to my header and take this horizontal menu and simply delete it because I probably want a text that says my team. So I will go to my title and simply drag and drop it onto my header, and I will make it onto a good suitable text size, like 18 pixel sounds good. And I can just reduce the width and keep it right here. And if I double click on it, I can say meet the team. And if I double click on it again, I can make it right aligned, keep it just like this so that it doesn't sort of distract people, and then make sure that this is at scale proportionally. And if I can go and click on this link icon right here, Wix Studio would ask me, what do you want this text to link to? So I can either choose a web address or I can go to a page and I can say that take us to the team page, right? And it can either open into a new window or into a current window. So what will happen is that if I click on the preview icon again and select meet the team, it would lead me to this page right here. So of course, there is a lot that you can do, but I just wanted to show you that this is where you can create your multiple pages. Now, global sections are areas that are visible everywhere. So your headers and footers are included in your global sections. In your site styles, you can choose every little detail and fine tune it according to your own client's brand. And the crazy part here is that everything is componentized, right? So you have your headings, you have your body text. So if I go to my heading text right here and ever decide to maybe change from this font to probably, let's take something like secular 1, that one single change will be applied everywhere else. So just to show you how this works, if I select any of my text right here and go to the right side and just make sure that I double click on this and go here and maybe choose heading 1, you would realize that the font is now getting updated. Now, if I want to make changes to this, I can of course go to edit text and override these changes. Otherwise, I can also make a change here. Let's just say I make this 60 pixels in size. I can go to heading 1, see this asterisk and go and click on update theme. When I do that, changes would be applied inside my typography section. So this is where you can have like massive end-to-end control on each and every aspect of your typography, your colors, and your page transitions, right? So when you go to your colors, you again have your background text, your action colors, and other colors which complete your brand colors and your accent colors. But basically, once you go to the color panel, this is where you can access all of your theme colors, right? So you have your background colors, you have your accent colors. If you want to have your own colors, you can just add them directly. So it becomes like a palette that you can reuse again and again. So that was around your site styles. Once I go to the app market, this is where we enter like really advanced features of Wix Studio. We won't cover them right now, but just to show you how it works, there are so many things that you have predefined and pre-built by default, where you have a bunch of marketing plugins that help you with your SEO and analytics. There are so many things that you will find in their team picks section, where you basically have all of their most crazy powerful plugins in one single place. And if you want to go to app manager, they have a couple of additional advanced apps that are a part of the Wix family, right? So if you're making a website for event management, or if you're making a blog, all of those things can be integrated right here. So if you're interested in any of these additional applications, whether it's for a blog or for creating a forum, there's so much that you can do, right? So right now I've just installed the Wix blog app, and you can see how I already have an interesting template to work on. But for now, I'll just delete it because we're trying to keep things very simple. CMS stands for Content Management System. Basically, you can have a lot of content, like hundreds of blogs, hundreds of articles in one single place and displayed across your website. So when you see a really big e-commerce website, or when you see like a really big catalog based website of a really big company, all of those things require solid CMS, and building up CMS by default through code is extremely tedious. So this is where Wix Studio comes in, and they sort of automate the entire process of building your CMS. And when you go to code, this is basically you can do your own manual hard coding. So if you have something which is not very easy to edit through a section, you can always put your own JavaScript web app inside your Wix Studio app, so that you can have a lot more customization if you are into code already. When you're starting out, instead of directly jumping into documentation, I would first recommend you to click on this hat icon right here and finish all of the basic video tutorials that Wix Studio has put in place. Now, Wix Studio's biggest advantage is that you can make really high-end websites with a lot of efficiency and customization without investing in a very expensive laptop or a domain hosting cost, or spending too much time learning how to code. Because if I were to go to wireframes, they have so many templates that you can start with. So you can literally take anything you want and just drag and drop it and edit it according to your own needs, where all of the animations are sorted all together. And there is so much that you can explore, whether it's a bunch of layouts or tabs or accordions. If I go to menu and search, you have all of these components defined. They also have pro galleries where you can add media with text and carousel. So all of these things are so easy to customize that things become way more faster for a person or an agency who's just trying to build things from scratch and they don't have enough time. And because you have a lot of these complicated things built by default, the turnaround times are essentially reduced by a huge extent. So you can have a lot of customization, and there's a lot that you can perform without complexity. So if you're trying to open a blog, or if you're trying to open your own online store, at a very little cost, you can upgrade to a plan where you can also process payments. So they have multiple formats. If you're making a website for bookings or events, or if you're creating a community and you want to have like a members area, or if you're building a website for a restaurant menu, or if you're doing something in your CMS, which is your content management system, all of these things are readily available. But folks, apart from just learning how to use Wix Studio, you will still need to understand the basics of copywriting, the basics of visual design. You have to be on point with the understanding of great aesthetics, because even if you're editing a template, it's not easy to pick and choose the right kind of images and right kind of text, and make sure that you follow everything I say in the last chapter. I will be giving you a list of websites where you can get a lot of UI inspiration. So make sure that as a web developer, you are consistently upskilling yourself and noticing all the websites that you see on a day-to-day basis. In fact, I regularly share so much of inspiration on my Instagram broadcast. If you haven't joined that, do join it. Just scan this QR code to join our broadcast community. We regularly share a lot of interesting stuff. Now let's just add one more section because I want to explain a very important concept. Let's just say I go to my products and put this thing right here, right? A very important principle in web development is of cascading, which means that whatever changes apply on my desktop breakpoint, which is right here, it is applied to all of the breakpoints that come below it. But whatever changes I make here on the mobile are not cascaded upwards. What I mean by that, if I make a change on the mobile breakpoint, it is not inherited to the desktop breakpoint. But whatever changes I make to the desktop breakpoint are inherited in everything which comes below that breakpoint, right? So for example, if I go back to my layers panel, and let's just say I go to this specific cell right here, and you can see how all of these things are in a stack, right? So you have your cells, and then within your cells you have the stack, and you see this repeater thing right here. This category allows you to basically make changes in one single place and have them reflected across all the different fields. So if I open up my inspector again, and let's just say I make the color blue, the same change would be applied to all the three other cards as well. Now, if I go to my desktop, you'll notice that the changes are not there because it does not cascade upwards. It only cascades downwards. So if I go and change my font, maybe I go from this one to Hebo, you'd realize that as soon as I go to my mobile, the font change was cascaded, but the color change did not cascade in the upwards direction, right? So it's just an important thing to note because all of these things might confuse you when you're starting out. When I was starting out, in my college days, it was so intimidating to make these changes on HTML and CSS. It was crazy. I still remember back in 2018, this is where all of these things started. And एक बहुत interesting बात बताता हूँ आपको. In 2018, I was competing at Harvard University for Hack Harvard. And just 2 hours were left for the final pitch. And we thought we'll make a PPT, but everyone around us had a website for some reason. And seeing their websites just made me feel very complex because I was just wondering, how did all of these teams suddenly come up with a website where just an hour ago we were all struggling to finish our product? Turns out I had not paid attention to one of the free workshops they had for all the students. And that workshop was by Wix. This I'm talking about 2018. And they were one of the sponsors at Hack Harvard 6 years ago. So I missed the workshop. So everyone except us had a website. But eventually I did end up making a website. I quickly went and I learned everything. And I distinctly remember I was in the editing process of my website and I was learning how this entire no-code thing works. And I looked at my teammate Saransh and said, कि भाई इसके बाद कोई भी web developer coding क्यों ही सीखेगा? Right? And fast forward 6 years to today, Wix Studio has just become better. So you can obviously imagine how so many things will change in the upcoming 1 year. By the way, I've shared a lot more hackathon stories in my Stanford University video or our hackathon guides or even my Medium articles. In case any of you are interested, you'll find all the links in description. I personally recommend every single student to actively compete in hackathons because it is such a great experience. Now, just to quickly reiterate, on the left side, you have all of your editing menu. On the top is where you can go through multiple breakpoints. This is where you can check for a really wide breakpoint. So let's just say I have a really wide desktop. I can check how it would look for 2400 pixels and basically see how my website would scale with time, right? So it won't preview because my desktop is not big enough, but I think you get the point. So I can simply go here and go back to 1280 pixels because that is the safest desktop size. Like this is the size where you should design it for. But now the main question is, how is Wix Studio better than all the other platforms and is it the best option for you? Dekho, every no-code platform has its own strengths. To make a personal decision, you need to rate your choice on 3 components: ease of learning, pricing, and templates. Wix Studio is easy to learn and its pricing is very affordable as compared to any other no-code platform out there because they give you a domain and 1 year of free hosting. Therefore, if your priority is to make something easily which looks very high quality and at a low cost, then Wix Studio is a very good choice for you. Now, before we move ahead, let's quickly revise what we learned in chapter number 1. I explained you the basics of sections, layers, and styles. Then we explored the inspect panel for basic cosmetic changes. And then we saw how Wix Studio automatically adjusts our websites for breakpoints and responsive behavior. Now that I've completed the basics, let me show you how I created a client's landing page right inside Wix Studio. Assume I've got a client that makes interesting experiences or websites for other agencies, and this client has come to me to make a website. What I've done here is that I've created a website and I will show you the logic and the intent behind each of these decisions. So let's start with chapter number 2. Now what I'll do is I'll go back to my homepage. This is where I have all of my websites. So I have been working on Wix Studio for a while, and this is the one that we have created. So let me just show you what our Wix Studio for this website looks like. I'll close this tab, and basically once I select a website, I can either connect to a custom domain or I can just view my site as well. So I'll just show you the live site and let me click on edit site as well. So this is how our website looks like. So assume that I've got a client called Creative Saga and they deliver top tier digital solutions. And now that we've completed the basics in chapter number 1, it'll be very easy for you to understand the logic. So once I go to my layers, you can see that I have a header. By the way, if you want to change the logo, all you can do is go inside the stack and go inside the vector art and click on change vector art. So you can either upload your own logo. For now, I have just uploaded some media from Wix. Then we have a hero section. Inside my hero section, I've basically put a bunch of text, which is my stack, and then I've put a video. So to make a video, you can just go to add elements and put a video from this thing right here. So I've put it behind my text stack so it looks very nice. And to make things more accessible, I have basically gone down and reduced the opacity of this entire video. So if I go to adjust, I have made the opacity at 40%. Now, if you're wondering how do you stack things, I can simply go and unstack this. So basically by default, all of these things were spread out like layers. So all I need to do is select from this button to this thing right here, right click and make stack vertically. The benefit of stack is that you can select the padding in one single place. So once I go here, you can see that it is at 2.4% or 24 pixels, right? So I can choose it to be 16 and then all of these things would come together. And then I've put a portfolio button. Basically, you can take this button and pin it anywhere you want. When it comes to the images, we created these assets in Figma. So it's not necessary for you to create everything inside Wix Studio. You can create assets differently in a different tool altogether and then export high resolution images and import them in your media. And then we had like an our work section, we had a testimonial section, and then an about us section. Now all of these things are very sorted, right? So if I go and preview this, you'd see that this is how it finally looks like. And it's pretty interesting because you can easily convert this into a responsive layout without much headache. Like it would have taken us so much time to create this by hand, right? And I took a lot of inspiration from a bunch of websites and a lot of sections that were already available in Wix. So if I were to go to edit site again, you can see how easy and seamless this can be for you. All the changes are supremely easy. And just to give you a tentative timeline, it took us around half an hour to plan the entire wireframe and around 1 hour or 2 hours to come up with the assets and the text, right? So all of this progress was made really, really quickly. Now, as a beginner, things might look slightly intimidating. It takes a lot of time, but the features that they've included here is for both beginners and professionals to do things easily, right? Because you can customize the design and logic in many different ways. So you can deliver a lot of projects in way less time. And if you go to the upgrade button, this is where you can, get more better plans. Now that I've shown you the basics and a simple example, it's important to move to chapter number 3. So this is where upskilling becomes more easy. If I go to community and select on Wix Studio community, you will be redirected to a place where you can have access to a bunch of different events, live webinars, and even in-person events. So what you can do is you can go to resources, and here you have their Wix Studio Academy that will give you a lot of video tutorials, and you can go to developer docs where you can read their API documentation. And if I go to my templates, this is where you can kickstart your website work very easily. So they have a bunch of templates that can be edited right inside Wix Studio. So let's just say you're making something for a very cool tech brand, right? So this is what you can create by default. So if you go to home or if you go to subscribe, you can see how it would look for different breakpoints. And if I go to edit template, I'll have the same thing as an editable thing. But this is still like a pretty straightforward and a simple coming soon page. Let's pick something which is way more interesting. So I really like how this architecture firm thing looks like. So this has a very cool edgeless video. Once I click on explore, they have a bunch of text, interesting images, they have a bunch of projects as well. And the fun part is that you can take a template which was built for architecture and then put your own work in it, right? So there is absolutely no limit to what you can do. When it comes to pricing, you have to get a plan for each and every website. So let's just say I had this client website. The way pricing works here is very simple. You create a website and then you have to get a Wix Studio plan for a specific website. So if you're making something which is just like an online brand and you just want to spread awareness, then the 230 rupees per month plan would be perfect for you. If you're trying to sell something, then they have a 399 plan and an 846 plan. The difference between these two plans is that you get a lot of media storage available here. If you're trying to build like a big repository of items inside your CMS, then you can have up to 10,000 CMS items in one single place, and they can accept payments, you get your free domain, and they also give you priority support in case there is any confusion or any mishap. Now, if you're just starting your agency or if you're just entering freelancing, then you have to watch these 3 videos on our channel because there's a lot of theory and understanding and mindset shifts that you need to have when you start your web development career. On number 1 is freelancing versus full-time job. Which one is right for you? Where I go really deep into my own freelancing journey and I discuss the pros and cons between working at an agency versus a startup or a big company. And I also give you a step-by-step roadmap to kickstart your freelancing career. Because काम शुरू करने से पहले ये क्लैरिटी होना बहुत जरूरी है कि हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं और किसके लिए कर रहे हैं. On number 2 is how to get high paying clients in 2024, where I've shared my top hacks and techniques on getting US clients. On number 3 is our episode with Dan Moll, who has freelanced with some of the biggest companies in the world, including Nike, Google, Meta, and even Disney Plus. In fact, here is a list of websites where you can start reaching out to get remote freelance clients. But of course, please do not reach out unless you have finished your syllabus and your learning and you have a portfolio. So I would recommend you to make 2 to 3 websites on Wix Studio itself and then create your own portfolio on Wix Studio so that you can showcase your work, because without portfolio, without good work, it will not work out. And just to give you a tentative outline, you have to spend at least 1 to 2 hours every single day for the next 3 to 4 months minimum to make sure that your work is at par. And at the beginning, you should simply start reaching out to clients that have low budget, that pay you less, because I really believe in the quote that if you work more than what you're being paid for, eventually you will be paid more than what you work for. So if you are done with your portfolio and if you want to start reaching out, then this list will help you get a lot of jobs in no time. Now make sure you document your learnings, otherwise you'll just forget everything you have learned here. We have just released a detailed tutorial on how I organize my life, my work and learnings on Notion. You'll find the link in description. If you want a website design inspiration, then these links will give you a lot of inspiration. Now, to make this video more actionable, let me give you a homework. Number 1, try to create a website for a fictional edtech brand using Wix Studio. You don't need to pay anything to get started. You'll find the link in my description. Make a simple one-pager with a sticky header that leads to an email. So you should have a CTA that leads to an email to your own company. And make sure you have at least 4 different sections. One can be about us, one can be projects, one can be testimonials, and then publish it and post about it on LinkedIn, summarizing your learnings and lessons. Build in public. Do not shy away from telling people that you're learning something new. And make sure you tag me and Wix. We would love to see what you've built so far. And if you complete this assignment within the next 1 week, comment below your feedback and share the link to your social media post. I would love to see your work in the comments of this video. Now the fun part is that this website is just getting started. I've barely shown you all the possibilities and interactions and hover states and everything that you can do to make this website even better. So in part 2 of this video, I'll teach you the more advanced animations and more complex settings right inside Wix Studio. Because this video number 1 was just to give you an overview of how Wix Studio works and how is it different from other platforms. This website is good, but I know that it can do a lot more. So I want to check if you're even interested in part number 2. So if the basics are clear, I want you to start learning on your own at the side, and then just comment below if you want something specific to be covered in part number 2, and let me know if we should even make part number 2 or not. By the way, if you want to learn more about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and Midjourney, then you should totally check out our free YouTube playlist or even our free learning platform, howtoprompt.in. In case you're interested in learning about web design, product design, or user interface design, then you should check out our website learnuiux.in that has a free 9-week course to upskill yourself. With that being said, I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra signing out. If you enjoyed this video, then do check out this video of the same series. I am sure that it will help you even more.